We just broke a shocking story. There is a rift, and I think that is an understatement of a word, a rift.
I think that that's going to be, probably a game time decision. Anyone that reasonably has information that can be, that can provide evidence in this case is going to be deposed.
For years, Taylor Swift and Blake Lively seemed like the kind of Hollywood best friends that were untouchable. Their bond wasn't just cozy Instagram pictures or a few red carpet appearances. No, this was a friendship that went deep, deeper than most celebrity connections ever dare. Taylor wasn't just a friend, she was family. She was even godmother to Blake and Ryan Reynolds' kids, an honor that symbolized just how intertwined their lives had become. Fans adored their dynamic. Blake, the effortlessly cool actress with a sharp sense of humor, and Taylor, the queen of the charts with a knack for turning personal moments into cultural phenomena. Together, they were untouchable, or so it seemed.
Good morning, George. This is a big mess for everyone involved. The legal drama playing out in multiple courts now, literally from coast to coast, and all kinds of people close to these stars, from personal trainers to friends like Taylor Swift, finding their names mentioned as part of this ongoing fight.
But the cracks, as they always do, started to show. At first, they were faint, little whispers, odd moments that didn't quite add up. Then, they grew louder. The turning point, ironically, wasn't a public spat or an obvious falling out. It was a series of small, almost imperceptible actions that slowly snowballed into a full-fledged storm. And at the center of it all, a legal battle that had nothing to do with Taylor directly but somehow managed to drag her name, reputation, and emotions into a mess she never wanted any part of. The friendship began to unravel when Blake Lively found herself embroiled in a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, her director and co-star in the film It Ends With Us. Blake accused Baldoni of creating a hostile working environment, among other allegations, and the fallout was immediate and ugly. But what no one could have predicted was how Taylor's name would end up smack in the middle of this legal drama. In text messages that surfaced as part of the case, Blake referred to Taylor as one of her dragons, a term that sounded empowering on the surface but quickly took on a more manipulative tone. The implication? That Taylor was a weapon Blake could wield when things got messy.
Now you have two sides here, right? So Baldoni says this was all an effort to hijack the film to get her way. Lively claims she was the victim of harassment in a hostile work environment.
For Taylor, this wasn't just an uncomfortable situation. It was a betrayal. Sources close to the singer revealed that she felt blindsided and deeply hurt by being dragged into a controversy that had nothing to do with her. Taylor wasn't even directly involved in the film's production, yet her name was now being tossed around in legal documents as though she were an active participant in Blake's battle. It wasn't just inconvenient, it was damaging. The lawsuit painted a picture of alliances and power plays, with Taylor unwittingly cast as a supporting character in a drama she never signed up for. And then came a social media drama. Taylor's boyfriend, NFL star Travis Kelce, reportedly unfollowed Ryan Reynolds on Instagram, a move that sent the internet into a frenzy. Fans were quick to connect the dots, speculating that the unfollow was a subtle, yet pointed statement of solidarity with Taylor. After all, Ryan had been standing by Blake throughout her legal woes, even as the situation grew murkier by the day. For Travis to unfollow him wasn't just a casual decision, it was a declaration. The message was clear: Taylor wasn't taking Blake's side, and neither was he.
New video released by lawyers for actor Justin Baldoni showed unedited footage from the filming of It Ends With Us.
The fallout didn't stop there. Blake's reputation took a hit as more details about the lawsuit emerged, and her once solid circle of support began to waver. One of the most surprising turns came from Selena Gomez, Taylor's longtime best friend, who reportedly had reservations about Blake from the very beginning. According to sources, Selena had always found Blake's friendship with Taylor to be a bit off. She allegedly felt that Blake had a tendency to latch onto Taylor, using their bond to elevate her own status. And now, with Taylor dragged into this legal mess, Selena's early skepticism seemed almost prophetic. Selena wasn't shy about voicing her concerns. Insiders claimed she had warned Taylor years ago about getting too close to Blake, but Taylor, ever the optimist, had brushed it off. Now, with her name splashed across legal documents and her boyfriend making silent statements on social media, Taylor was beginning to see what Selena had been worried about all along. The fallout was messy, emotional, and public, the kind of drama that no amount of PR spin could fully contain. Blake, for her part, didn't remain silent. Reports surfaced that she had reached out to Taylor with what insiders described as a genuine and heartfelt apology. But by then, the damage was done. Taylor, who values loyalty and trust above all else, wasn't quick to forgive. The apology felt too little, too late, especially given the emotional toll the situation had already taken on her. For someone who had always been careful about the people she let into her inner circle, this betrayal cut deep.
Now to the ongoing Hollywood drama everyone is talking about, the legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
And then there was the public's reaction. Swifties, ever protective of their queen, didn't hold back. They flooded social media with theories, memes, and outright disdain for Blake, painting her as the villain in a saga that seemed straight out of a soap opera. Blake, once a beloved figure in Hollywood, found herself increasingly isolated. The industry, too, began to take notice. Whispers started circulating that Blake's actions, and the fallout from them, had made her a risky choice for future projects. The once untouchable actress was now treading on thin ice. The tension reached a boiling point when Taylor and Blake were spotted together at Beyoncé's London premiere of her Renaissance documentary. Fans were quick to analyze every detail of their interaction, or lack thereof. While the two posed for photos, the body language told a different story. Gone was the warmth and ease that had defined their friendship for years. In its place was a palpable awkwardness, a sense that both women were going through the motions for the cameras, but couldn't wait to part ways. It was a stark reminder of just how much had changed.
Now, I will say, it is also interesting that the defendants in this answer also admit that they sent text messages. I mean, when Lively produced copies of these text messages that she got through a subpoena, there's really nowhere else to go on that. You got to admit that you sent these, but it doesn't mean that Baldoni and the other defendants will agree to the context or the characterization that was laid out by Blake Lively, for instance.
And yet, despite the apology, the unfollows, and the public fallout, one thing remained clear. The story was far from over. The legal battle between Blake and Justin Baldoni was still unfolding, with new twists and turns emerging almost daily. And with Taylor's name still hovering in the background, the question wasn't just what would happen next, but how much worse it could get. And just when it seemed like the chaos couldn't spiral any further, the courtroom drama began to pull in even more high-profile players, turning this messy celebrity fallout into a full-blown Hollywood spectacle. The legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It was a battleground of egos, reputations, and alliances. And at the center of it all, somehow, was Taylor Swift. Her name kept surfacing, not because she wanted to be involved, but because Blake had made her a pawn in this high-stakes chess game. And as the case gained momentum, it became clear that this wasn't just a fight about contracts or creative differences. This was a war for control, and no one was walking away unscathed.
We need to stop being so ADHD where we're only into stories at the very beginning of them and we never see them through. Like, we need to bring back true investigative reporting.
Blake's accusations against Baldoni were explosive enough on their own, but his countersuit took things to a new level of ugly. Baldoni fired back with claims that Blake had overstepped her role as an actress, accusing her of seizing control of the film's production and even weaponizing her celebrity connections. Taylor included, to pressure him into creative decisions he didn't agree with. According to Baldoni's legal team, Blake wasn't just an actress looking out for her own interests. She was allegedly orchestrating a coup behind the scenes. And while Blake denied these allegations, the receipts Baldoni's team brought to court told a different story. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was a series of text messages. Baldoni's lawyers presented these during a pretrial hearing, and they painted a picture of a production that was anything but harmonious. In one exchange, Blake allegedly referred to Taylor and Ryan Reynolds as her dragons, a term that, to outsiders, might have sounded mythical or playful. But in the context of these texts, it became clear that Blake saw them as her ultimate leverage. She allegedly used their names to apply pressure, to make it known that she had powerful allies who could sway public opinion or even the outcome of the film's direction. For Baldoni, this wasn't just frustrating, it was career-threatening. He claimed that he felt backed into a corner, bullied into making decisions that compromised his original vision for the movie.
And he says, like, look, this is just, Hollywood is based on pure fear, cultivated by both of them and their very powerful friends in entertainment.
What made this even more complicated was the inclusion of Taylor's name in these texts. Baldoni's legal team argued that Blake had invoked Taylor's influence to intimidate him, using her global platform as a kind of silent threat. Taylor, of course, had no idea her name was being used in this way. She wasn't sitting in on production meetings or texting Blake about script changes. But the fact that she was dragged into the narrative at all was enough to cause her significant distress. Sources close to Taylor revealed that she was horrified when she found out how her name was being weaponized. And yet, despite her efforts to stay out of the fray, the situation kept pulling her in. Then came the subpoenas. As the case escalated, both sides began preparing for a trial that promised to be as dramatic as any Hollywood blockbuster. And in the process, names like Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and even Hugh Jackman were floated as potential witnesses. While Taylor's team worked tirelessly to avoid her being formally brought into court, there was no escaping the fact that her testimony could be pivotal. If Blake's legal team called on her, Taylor would have to navigate the tightrope of loyalty and truth, all while knowing that every word she said could be dissected in the media.
Well, I do think the damages for Baldoni could be very considerable, definitely in the 100 million range or above that, which is obviously problematic.
Meanwhile, Blake's reputation was taking hit after hit. The legal battle wasn't just a private matter anymore. It was a public spectacle. And as more details emerged, the public began to question the actress's motives. Was she standing up for herself in the face of genuine mistreatment? Or was she using her influence to manipulate those around her? Opinions were sharply divided. Some fans rallied behind Blake, praising her for taking on a powerful director and refusing to be silenced. Others saw her actions as calculated, a desperate attempt to maintain control over a project she had allegedly hijacked. And then there was the industry fallout. Blake's co-stars from It Ends With Us began to weigh in, and their statements only added fuel to the fire. While some, like Jenny Slate, voiced their support for Blake, others were notably silent, or worse, subtly critical. Behind closed doors, whispers about Blake's behavior on set grew louder. Producers and directors who had once been eager to work with her were now reconsidering. The lawsuit had made her radioactive in an industry that thrives on collaboration and discretion. No one wanted to be the next Justin Baldoni, dragged into a public feud that could overshadow their work.
It's just this weird thing that women do. I don't know why, but we lie to each other on the internet. I see it all the time. I want to call it out. I want to be like the internet police and be like, that's not true. Stop supporting your friends when they're doing bad or harmful things. I think Jenny Slate.
What made the situation even more chaotic was the revelation of internal court filings that painted an even bleaker picture of the working relationship between Blake and Justin. In one particularly heated deposition, it was revealed that their on-set disagreements weren't just creative, they were personal. A production assistant testified that tensions boiled over during a closed-door meeting between the two, one that reportedly ended with Blake storming out of the room in tears. The assistant claimed Blake accused Justin of undermining her at every turn, while Justin allegedly fired back, accusing her of being unprofessional and impossible to work with. This testimony, though unproven, was enough to make headlines, with the tabloids seizing on the image of two stars locked in a bitter power struggle.
You've been following the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively thing?
Bro, Blake Lively, talk about ruin your reputation, and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, they f***ed up. Ryan's trying to get out of it now. He's trying to get out of the lawsuit, and they're like, you were a key part of this.
Adding to the drama, Blake's legal team filed a motion to block certain evidence from being presented in court, claiming it was misleading and irrelevant. This included behind-the-scenes footage that Baldoni's team argued would prove Blake's alleged attempts to take control of the production. One clip reportedly showed Blake interrupting Baldoni during a rehearsal, insisting on changes to a key scene while the crew watched in awkward silence. Baldoni's lawyers described this footage as a smoking gun, proof that Blake had overstepped her role. Blake's team, however, dismissed the clip as being taken out of context, accusing Baldoni of cherry-picking moments to paint her in a negative light. Meanwhile, in a surprising twist, the judge issued a rare public statement reprimanding both sides for their conduct, warning them to stop litigating this case in the press. The statement came after yet another leak, this time involving emails that appeared to show Sony executives expressing frustration with the escalating drama. One email, published by an entertainment outlet, suggested that studio heads were reconsidering future collaborations with both Blake and Baldoni, fearing that their feud had tarnished not just the film, but their own reputations as well. The judge's warning seemed to fall on deaf ears, as both camps continued to trade barbs in legal filings and through anonymous sources in the media.
Like I said, this feels a little bit like a cop-out, and I think it's more likely that what she's doing here is trying to stay out of it. This is the Taylor Swift movement. This is likely a legal strategy. I don't want to be involved in this case.
For Baldoni, the stakes were just as high. His countersuit wasn't just about clearing his name. It was about salvaging his career. He claimed that Blake's allegations had caused irreparable harm to his reputation, painting him as a toxic figure in an industry that was becoming increasingly unforgiving of even perceived misconduct. His legal team argued that Blake's actions were part of a calculated smear campaign, one designed to shift blame away from her and onto him. And while Baldoni denied all allegations of inappropriate behavior, the court of public opinion was already in session. As the trial date loomed, the tension between the two camps reached a fever pitch. Blake's legal team pushed for a dismissal of Baldoni's countersuit, calling it retaliatory and meritless. Baldoni's lawyers fired back, accusing Blake of trying to silence him and prevent the truth from coming out. The legal filings became increasingly aggressive, with both sides accusing the other of using the media to sway public opinion. And in the middle of it all were Taylor, Ryan, and their circle of Alist friends caught in a whirlwind they never asked to be part of.
She also provided a cease and desist letter, asking them to cease, quote, all unlawful conduct, namely what they alleged is the, quote, harassing and retaliatory media and online campaign against Miss Lively.
The situation became so heated that even the judge presiding over the case had to step in. During a pretrial conference, he warned both sides to stop leaking documents and making public statements that could bias a jury. But by that point, the damage had already been done. The court of public opinion was in full swing, and everyone, from casual fans to Hollywood insiders, had an opinion on who was in the right. As the trial date approached, new revelations continued to emerge. Baldoni's legal team hinted at more evidence, including emails and behind-the-scenes footage that they claimed would vindicate him. Blake's team, meanwhile, doubled down on their narrative, arguing that Baldoni's countersuit was nothing more than a desperate attempt to deflect from his own behavior. And through it all, Taylor remained silent, her name still swirling in the chaos, but her voice notably absent.
shutting down a woman's claims.
She is claiming that there was sexual harassment. He's saying none of it is true, never happened, never did.
This was no longer just a legal battle. It was a clash of titans. Careers, reputations, and relationships were on the line, and no one knew how it would all end. Would Blake manage to clear her name and reclaim her place in Hollywood? Would Baldoni emerge as the wronged party, his reputation restored? And what about Taylor? Would she finally break her silence, or would she continue to distance herself from the drama? One thing was certain, this story was far from over. What do you think? Was Blake justified in her actions, or did she take things too far? Could Baldoni's countersuit reveal more than Blake bargained for? And how do you think Taylor will handle being dragged into the middle of this mess? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.